Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the third annual HIS Reads Final. Just like all of you and these finalists here, we're growing. We have 11 finalists today. Let's give a round of applause. We have some wonderful prizes, but even more than that, we've got the prize of pride, of the victory, of the win. And so here we have these 11 finalists who are trying to earn your respect, earn the recognition of our 4 judges, and your captivation. So I'd like to announce the 11 finalists in order. After each one, I would love for you to give a round of applause. Up first, we have Midori Hong! Haruki Wakamatsu! Kiara Johnson! Everybody should clap except for Kamui. Yeah. Pedro Mori! Chloe Hawkins! Ethan Toll! Kanade Suzuki! Tanita Koch. David Sugano. Rumi Inose. And last but not least, Ryu Katayama. And a big thanks for all of the students who have helped set up today. Special thanks goes to Tsuba for being a wonderful scribe. Thanks to Alex in his videography, to Mr. Katayama for sound and photography, and a very special thanks for the 4 judges sitting right there as well. Let's give it up for our 4 judges. Give it up! To my left and your right, we have Mrs. Riggins. Let's give Mrs. Riggins a hand. So I want to tell you a little bit about Mrs. Riggins. We're very honored to have her here. And we're very special to have her at the school for so long. Kathleen Riggins' first intense reading experience came in elementary school, when she read all about atomic science. In middle school, she read all she could about the French Revolution, and in high school, the Russian Revolution. Now, she reads many kinds of books, and especially likes science fiction. As a latecomer to YA fiction, she deeply enjoys reading the new library books every summer and introducing them to the students and teachers during the school year. Let's give another round of applause for Mrs. Riggins. Our next judge we all know very well, Mr. Radcliffe. Barry Radcliffe's path to reading began with The Hobbit, the first book to fully captivate his attention, and he went on there from genre after genre. His prevailing favorite form of reading remains the novel, which he believes is one of the most important windows into understanding and broadening one's knowledge of what it means to be human in all of its complexity of experience. His undergraduate degree in history continues to influence his reading choices with a particular interest in prominent historical leaders, their influence, and the times that shaped them. Let's give another round of applause for Barry Radcliffe! And next to Mr. Radcliffe, we have Mr. Cook. Give him a round of applause. For Neil Cook, the sign of a good book is our desire to read it over and over at different times in our lives. What makes it a great book is when it feels fresh and new each time it's read, first as a youth or young adult, later in middle age, and lastly in old age. By that measure, Neil Cook's list of favorites would include Alexander Dumas' Count of Monte Cristo, his favorite book read when he was 13, the Deptford Trilogy by Robertson Davies, A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole, most books by John Irving, the science fiction of Philip K. Dick, the magic realism of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the poetic prose, or the prosaic poetry of Michael and Dante. Let's give a hand for Neil Cook! And our final judge today, let's give a hand for Mrs. Tull. Mandy Tull grew up in a house full of books. She always enjoyed reading, but it wasn't until she read the Chronicles of Narnia series in 4th grade that she was truly hooked. Her 3 favorite novels and most often visited places on her Kindle are Pride and Prejudice, The Christmas Carol, and The Count of Monte Cristo. Her favorite children's authors are Dr. Seuss, A.E. Milne, and Beverly Cleary. The college course she enjoyed the most was children's literature. She couldn't believe she was receiving college credit to read and fall in love with more books. Her next big adventure with books will be stepping into the big shoes of Mrs. Riggins as the HIS librarian for 2017-2018. Let's give a hand for Mrs. Tull! And an extremely wonderful addition to HIS Reads this year is Miss Harmon. She's been wonderful in refining the process of this, and she's going to be awarding our finalists the prizes today. Let's give Miss Harmon a nice round of applause. Okay, before we get things started, I should note that as I said, we're growing. We have 11 finalists. We have 4 judges. Before we had 8 and 3. Today, the judges, out of the interest of avoiding conflict of interest, will only be evaluating some of the contestants. Each one of the contestants will have 3 judges, okay? And of course, the ones with the same name will not be judging each other, okay? All right, so here we are, round 1. The purpose of round 1 is to share with you the value of reading in general and the value of reading the book that was selected. It's a 1-minute round. We're beginning with Midori. Judges, are you ready? Audience, are you ready? Are you ready? Oh, that's lame. Are you ready? All right, there we go. Okay. Okay. All right, starting in 3, 2, 1.
Reading teaches you so much knowledge a teacher wouldn't even touch in the classroom. Reading brings you to many different places, from a lost island to as close as Japan. You could look through someone else's eyes. You could feel how they feel. You could think how they think. You yourself can experience something you might not experience during your whole life, like seeing a sparkling vampire, or talk to dolphins, who are mammals, by the way. Reading opens up imagination, and do you not think that that is just magical? My book, Caravel, is valuable because it shows sister love and emphasizes that you should not let someone control your life. This book pulled me in as it sounded cliche yet interesting. As why would they take time to try to emphasize, remember, it's only a game, when it's just someone trying to run away from her father.
Thank you. And we can applaud today. Up next, we have Haruki. Haruki, are you ready?
Right.
Okay, you ready with the timer? Starting in 3, 2.
My book is Romeo and Juliet, which is the nerdiest thing you could ever say, except for look at my Yu-Gi-Oh collection. Not only is the book masterfully written with loads of literary tricks, it shows how beautiful love can be. I can safely assume that all of you in the audience know that, if anything, Romeo and Juliet is about love. Love can overcome all obstacles, drive you through life as a strong, unmoving, unwavering goal, and enrich your life. If it doesn't end your life. As much as there is great love, there is great sustained hate between the families, which makes their love an impossibility. As much as there was love between Romeo and Juliet, the hate built up between the families tore them asunder. And in the end, they die a martyr, a moral lesson, not only for the houses to cease the feud, but for everyone to stop hating. Reading provides intellectual stimulation and challenges your preconceptions.
Thank you. Let's give a hand. Okay. Up next, we have Kiara. Kiara, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. You may begin.
So, The Red Badge of Courage by Stephen Crane is about a young man who becomes a soldier who joins a war because of these ideas of being a hero, this perception of the glory of war. And then through different experiences, he learns to overcome his fear and become a model soldier. So this book promotes the value of reading because to become a better writer, you have to read good writing. And to become a bit better writer, you have to understand the characters, and in doing so, understand other people. And this book is unique because it shows character development through dialogue instead of statements. It doesn't just tell you he's a loud man. It shows you he's a chatterbox. He shows you how annoying or how obnoxious a man can be through what he says and how he acts in the perception of the main character. Thank you.
Let's give a hand. And up next, we have Pedro. Pedro, are you ready? You may begin.
Okay, listen up, because I need to introduce you to The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens by Sean Covey. This book is valuable because it is the ultimate guide to help you with a lot of problems, not only in school, but outside of it as well. We are all not perfect. We need help, but sometimes it's hard to approach somebody to solve our questions and problems. And this book is a perfect way that you can help yourself improve in life. This book is extremely valuable because it connects to us teens and shows how our lives are like a jungle, unlike how a lot of people assume it to be a very simple walk in the park. It has improved my life for the better, from time management to my own behavior as well. To achieve things in life, we need help. And this book has all the tips and examples from real people you will need to improve your own life. Thank you.
Up next, we have Chloe. Chloe, are you ready?
Yes.
You may
Okay.
begin.
Do you feel attractive? Do you prefer to be ugly or beautiful? Well, Scott Westerfeld explores this question in a book called Uglies, with a plot revolving around Tally, a 16-year-old girl 300 years in the future in a highly controlled dystopian society. And Tally has to answer this question for herself. Because in this society, at age 16, everyone is turned pretty by an extreme and compulsory cosmetic surgery. Before her scheduled surgery, Tally meets Shay, a rebellious ugly who's against the operation. And initially, Tally wants to become a pretty, but Shay urges her to run away with her to a mysterious place called the Smoke, and to avoid getting the surgery, which first Tally denies. Though later, the government blackmails Tally, denying her the pretty surgery unless she helps find them, and the Smoke and her friend Shay. Westerfeld's Uglies challenges the idea that people should be judged by their appearance, hence promoting the value of reading because it shows that morals in certain books may offer valuable life lessons.
Great. Thank you. And up next we have Ethan. Ethan, are you ready? You may begin.
My book, The Rest of Us Just Live Here, by Patrick Ness, follows Mike, a high school senior with severe OCD and depression, and his friends who are all struggling to live their lives in a town where vampire attacks aren't rare and their school exploding happens almost annually. In Mike's school, many of the students are referred to as the indie kids. These are the ones chosen to stop the ghost invasions or prevent immortal psychopaths from creating portals to hell. Basically, they're the protagonists of fantasy books. However, they are the background characters in this one. This is part of the reason why my book promotes reading, as it provides a unique read, as it is a fantasy book, following the characters usually put into the background. It also shows a protagonist who's a relatable teenager despite him living in a fantasy world. This allows the reader to become both interested in realistic fiction and fantasy books through the unique perspective.
Thank you. Up next we have Kanade. Kanade, are you ready?
Yeah.
You may begin.
Books make us think what it truly means to live and grows us into a stronger, wiser person by changing perspectives and broadening our choice in life. My book teaches us no matter how strong fate is, we always have choice in our actions. Forget Tomorrow takes place in a world in the future where your future is revealed on your 17th birthday. Callie, the protagonist, sees herself murdering her sister, Jessup. As future criminal, she gets thrown into the jail, but escapes, gradually discovering the hidden truth and the saddest reason why her future self kills Jessup. This book is so valuable because it sheds light on power of fate and how we try to go against it. By reading this book, we can be wiser. By acknowledging different perspectives towards fate, we can be stronger. By experiencing Callie's life indirectly, we think about our own life. This book conveys a strong message. We always have choice, and we always have the power to bend fate. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next we have Tanita. Tanita, are you ready?
Yes.
You may begin.
College, family, school, relationships, work, stress. Some of the many things most of us are dealing with right now. We worry and stress out so much because we want to get into our first choice university, because we don't want to let our parents down, because we don't want to look like a failure in other people's eyes. But imagine having all those worries disappear just like that, and waking up in a place where sunlight never kisses your skin. Your bed is the dirt, and every second that passes feels like death is closing in on you, ready to take you. All those goals and dreams for the future become meaningless, and the only true desire you have is one crumb of bread, one restful night, one drop of water. The only true desire you have is to survive. This is what happened to Lucy Cunningham, a teenage high school girl who worried about her future and then disappeared. Reading is valuable because it can open our eyes to the problems that occur in society and in the world. This book, Wish You Were Dead, can open your eyes to how futile those worries are, how privileged and ungrateful people are, and how dangerous the world can really be. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next we have David. David, are you ready?
Yeah.
You may begin.
Fahrenheit 451 is a fun little book about burning books. Is that interesting? Why would you want to read a book about burning said books? It's because this book shows us a future which may not be too far away from where we are currently standing. Fahrenheit 451 is set in a future where peace has been achieved and where everyone in the United States is perfectly fine without books. They have all these new technology to use and play with and keep them company. Books became something which promoted creativity or ideas which would disrupt the community, ruin the peace with which the government finally achieved. So when Guy Monte, the protagonist of this book, finds a book inside a burning house and decides to keep it, that's where our adventure begins and our important step into why literature is such a strong and powerful creation we as humans must keep and protect. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next we have Rumi. Rumi, Are you ready? You may begin.
So this book is designing your life. It's a nonfiction book, and unlike every other book, it has no story. Instead of having no story, it has stories of many people, different people combined. It's a book teaching us valuable life lessons, teaches us to walk the correct pathway in life. The book shows us a lot of examples of different people's experiences to make sure that we don't make the same mistake again. This book is truly valuable to me because it answers all my questions in life. We all have questions like, do we know what we're doing? Are you sure this job is your dream? Thank you.
Thank you. And a blast in round one, we have Du. Are you ready? You may begin.
So the book I read, One Came Home, is a... The mic isn't close enough. So the book I read, One Came Home, is a murder mystery set in the 1800s America, specifically Placid, Wisconsin, where our main character, Georgie, is faced with the death of her sister. But she initially doesn't believe this, as there are factors in her sudden disappearance that she believes that she is still alive. This book promotes family love, as each of the family members in her family experience turmoils in their relationship that causes a rift in between them. As her sister wanted to pursue a life in education while her family didn't want to. Since I have a sibling as well sitting right there, this book had helped me know that family love is actually important and is a great factor in life.
Thank you. All right, let's give a round of applause for all of our contestants for the first round. Before we move into the second round, Drew, can you just make sure the timer's set to 2 minutes? Thank you. The second round is a 2-minute round, and we move from introducing the value of reading to the value of maybe life and of ourselves and of developing ourselves as we look at characters, the choices that they make, and how their choice affects their actual development. We're looking through the lens of the Huskies, but not just the Huskies. We're looking at the way that these books can help us grow as people. It's a 2-minute round. We'll be coming in reverse order. And after this round, the judges will have a tough decision. They will be eliminating 3 of our finalists. Okay? This is the last round before that elimination. Okay? Okay, and we're going in reverse order. We're starting with Ryu. Ryu, you have up to 2 minutes. Are you ready?
Yes.
You may begin.
So the first Husky that connects with the book is Huskies number 3, which is honest. They're learners and leaders who are self-motivated and self-directed. Our main protagonist, Georgie, shows this by motivating herself to find her presumed dead sister. Because in her heart, she knows that she's there somewhere. She is out there somewhere and not dead. She also never hesitates in what she does. And whenever she gets distracted, she always directs herself to her mission, into her main goal. The second Husky is understanding collaborators who work well with diverse individuals. During this book, she's forced to work with another boy named Billy, who was actually the former lover of her presumed dead sister, because Georgie really needed a horse to travel through to a place where she thinks she is last found. Because of this, even though that Billy can be a pain at times, she learns to work well with these diverse individuals who she has never dealt with. The third Husky number 26, socially and personally responsible citizens who demonstrates reliability and commitment. Georgie is shown to be reliable during the whole book, as she always knows what to do and what she needs to do to actually achieve her goal. She also shows commitment, as she's also always on track. She knows what to do. She knows how to investigate and talk her way through to find clues about her presumed system. Thank you.
Thank you. And up next we have Rumi. Rumi, are you ready? You may begin.
So this book connects with Husky number 6, analyze, evaluate, and synthesize information. So this book tells us to analyze our life. Are we happy with our work? Are we happy with our life? Are we happy with our love? And then with this information, we evaluate how much energy we take into our school, into our job. Does it make me happy? And then we synthesize the information to find out what works best for us and what does not. So it also connects to Husky number 14, which is confident and explore new experiences. The book encourages us to dream like a kid and plan like an adult. Instead of having one plan in life, we have multiple plans. We have more than plan A's, but we just make them into plan A instead of plan A, B, and C. It connects well to number 14 because it makes us think about what we actually want, and then we can incorporate that into our school and work. This book connects well with Husky's number 18, transfer knowledge and skills to real-world situations. Every chapter, the book gives us valuable information, stories from different people, from different perspectives, and it tells us, it answers our questions. We have lots of questions, but it provides us solutions to face it and overcome it. Thank you.
Thank you. David is up next. David, are you ready?
Yeah.
You may begin.
The connection between a character in the book and the person reading it becomes closely linked as the reader advances more and more into the plot. And as a character develops some traits which can serve he or she in the future, then it also becomes part of the reader as we go on the journey to achieve it with the character themselves. Which Huskies does this book relate to? I would probably choose the honest learning leaders who are self-motivated and self-directed, knowledgeable thinkers who show curiosity and interest in their world, and finally socially and personally responsible individuals who take ownership for identity and actions. Why would I choose these specific Huskies, you ask? It's because Monte, the main protagonist of this book, is always curious and taking action according to his own beliefs. Curious of what life really means to him and his wife Mildred, and belief in what was the real reason behind why books were illegal. You weren't there, you didn't see, he said. There must be something in books, things we can't imagine. To make a woman stay in a burning house, there must be something there. You don't stay for nothing. This quote challenges the honest learner and solution creator part of the HAS. Huskies, Montag starts questioning his own reasons behind book burning, self-motivating and acting according to his own identity crisis, basically going against what's the status quo. I've heard rumors, the world is starving, but we're well fed. Is it true the world works hard and we play? I've heard the rumors about hate, too, once in a long while over the years. Maybe the books can get us half out of the cave. They just might stop us from making damn insane mistakes. This quote represents knowledgeable thinkers who show curiosity and interest in the world of the HIS Huskies. I did a bit of research on this specific quote, and it sounds quite similar to that of Plato's allegory of the cave. The reference or similarity here is that everyone inside the cave is ignorant of the world outside of its dark chambers. Another idea here is that the books is what enables Montag to walk out of his cave. So you might ask yourselves what Plato and the book burning has to do. It's because everything inside the book is very similar to that of the world we live in currently. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Tanita up next. Tanita,
Yeah.
are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, you may begin.
The choices we make can have a huge impact on our lives. All humans strive for a balanced, harmonious life in which we temper and ground ourselves in virtues. The Huskies is a guideline of virtues that we should strive for so that we can make our dreams and goals a reality. This book is a prime example of how bad choices can result in terrible consequences. A book that shows that bad choices can't be avoided unless we are grounded in 3 of the Huskies: understanding collaborators, effective communicators, and solution creators. Wish You Were Dead is a story that shows how people's egocentrism and lack of communication can literally kill other people, a terrible consequence of a bad choice. Lucy, a popular girl, gets kidnapped and is brutally sentenced to die because one person couldn't look past her high school act and understand her. The same happened to Adam, then to Courtney, then to Madison, the protagonist. One by one, teenagers are taken away and sentenced to die because both sides were unwilling to understand each other, and so one side decided to take brutal actions. We know from experience that every disagreement or dispute originates from conflicting perspectives, and something incredibly minor can escalate to something huge because both parties don't have the intent to understand. This book shows through a counterexample that skills like these, understanding and communicating, are necessary to prevent conflict from escalating and ultimately prevent something that could lead to our own demise. Everyone struggles, and we all struggle differently. These characters struggled to survive. They were put in a place that is unimaginable to each and every one of us. Some of them survived, some of them didn't. The difference between those who did and those who didn't was one Husky's trait: the solution creator. Those who survived were solution creators who self-reflected and persevered. They reflected on the mistakes they made that put them in such a horrific place, and they persevered through that torture. We all struggle, and we all make bad choices sometimes. But what can ultimately make the difference between success and failure, or life and death, is the virtues of understanding, communicating, and solution creating. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of virtues and bad choices, as a reminder, please wait to use the restroom unless it's a dancing emergency or something like that. Up next we have Kanade. Kanade, are you ready? You may begin.
Character development in this story is one of the things readers look forward for. From their experience and growth, we self-reflect and learn, giving us chances to grow ourselves like how the characters grew. Kelly develops under 3 specific Huskies. First, honest learners and leaders who are self-motivated and self-directed. Kelly knows her future, but still strives for a way to change it. Quote, "Knowing the future doesn't take away my free will." This is said by Kelly, and it shows she's self-motivated to make actions she wants to take, not the action fate showed her to take. It also connects to individuality, that we're never, ever controlled by anything or anyone. 2, honest learners and leaders who make ethical and moral choices. As I explained, Kelly went against fate and successfully managed to not kill her sister by, instead, choosing to kill herself. Kelly found out that her self-Jessa had to die in order to prevent the future genocide, and Kelly's love towards her sister overtook her fear towards death, shown by this quote: "When all my layers are stripped away, when everything I know is turned inside out, all I have left is this, my love for you." Her love chose to protect her sister and the world by sacrificing herself. This was the most ethical and moral choice Kelly could have taken in her desperate situation. 3, understanding collaborators who contribute to the betterment of groups. As said earlier, Kelly finds out that Jessa and herself is the cause of the genocide, and Kelly's death prevented this. She contributed to the betterment of groups by being understanding towards the saddest truth. Throughout her actions and situations she had to go through, Kelly showed herself as a role model who showed clear individuality, leadership, and contribution. From her, students of HIS, including me, can learn how to be a better Husky and can grow ourselves into a better person. Thank you.
Thank you. And up next we have Ethan. Ethan, are you ready?
Yes.
You may begin.
All the main characters in my book are good examples of the Husky, internationally minded citizens who understand cultural and personal differences. Jared and Nathan are both gay and supported by the rest, even though most of their parents disagree with their life choices. Jared's dad is the political opposition to the main character's Mike's very career-driven political mother, but even though that their parents fight against each other, they still remain good friends. Nathan has moved many times in his life and has learned to get along with everyone, including the indie kids, the ones that nobody else seems to understand. The second husky that my book applies to is the husky socially and personally responsible individuals who pursue physical and mental health. Mike does this by going to a psychiatrist for his extreme OCD and depression, and Mel does this by trying to stay free of her anorexia that used to plague her. The third husky that my text connects to is the husky solution creators who demonstrate resilience and flexibility. Mike, the primary character, shows resilience and flexibility when he takes his sister almost dying, multiple attacks on his city, a constantly drunken and unresponsive father, an initially cold and uncaring mother getting in a car crash, and other problems in his stride. He manages to stay calm and help protect his friends, even when he needs them as much as they need him. Mel and Henna also demonstrate resilience, especially when Henna's brother, who she was very close to, runs away. Through these three huskies, the book develops its own message that people should stay strong and overcome challenges, but the support of those around you is critical to your success. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Chloe. Chloe, are you ready?
I don't think I ever will be, but...
You may begin.
Okay. I found that there are several demonstrations of the huskies throughout my book, Uglies. But the ones that were most apparent to me are honest learners and leaders who make ethical and moral choices, honest learners and leaders who are self-motivated and self-directed, and socially and personally responsible individuals who take ownership for their identity and their actions. Tally's moral compass is challenged by the government's blackmail, which is to turn in Shay and her ugly friends in order to become a pretty. So, at first, Tally breaks under the pressure. She makes a poor moral choice to lead the government to Shay and her ugly friends in their hideout, the smoke. Though, upon finding the smoke, Tally learns about and befriends the rebellious uglies and respects their decision not to become pretties. Later, Tally's moral conflict is resolved with her challenging moral decision to defend and to protect her new friends, rather than to use them for her own benefit. Secondly, this pretty dystopian society teaches children that becoming a pretty is good, but Tally, becoming more self-directed throughout the story, realizes the flaws in this. Tally initially succumbs to the pressure of the blackmail, deciding to turn in her friends by finding their hideout, the smoke, to lead the government to it. But when she finds the smoke, she learns how being an ugly can in some ways be beautiful, and Tally chooses to remain ugly, hence demonstrating her independence and self-motivation. Lastly, the defense of her friends is also demonstrated through Tally's social responsibility and ownership of her actions. She also learned the value of her identity. So initially, Tally wanted to be a pretty, but she began to see the beauty in uglies, and Tally chose to remain as she was, and to not undergo the pretty surgery. Taking ownership of her uniqueness, Tally chose to celebrate her identity and the beauty of her individuality.
Thank you. Up next, Pedro. Pedro, are you ready? You may begin.
The huskies aren't just things that are on the walls in our school. They're things that we are meant to follow, things that will improve us as human beings. The absence of huskies in our lives can make us non-effective and poor, and people who make poor choices and are unorganized. This is why I believe my book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, shows 3 huskies that we must follow in order for us to be better people in general. Those huskies are honest learners and leaders who are self-motivated and self-directed, knowledgeable thinkers who are confident and explore new experiences, solution creators who strive for innovation. I believe these huskies all connect to each other because if you're self-motivated and self-directed, you'll try to work hard and be more effective in order to give all your best you can at a project or just in your life in general. And once you're confident enough, you'll probably try to explore new worlds that you have never seen in your life. You'll probably try your best in order to see the world from a different perspective. But that only happens if you have the confidence within you. And once you find this new world, and you believe that it has flaws in it, you'll strive for innovation. And innovation doesn't mean just taking something and improving upon it. It can mean changing your life. Changing small bits can be innovation. And I believe this book is what it takes for you to take those small steps so we can all innovate ourselves. And I believe that I have also started to innovate myself as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And up next we have Kiara. Kiara, are you ready? You may begin.
So the first husky is understanding collaborators who work well with diverse individuals and situations. So at the end, the main character comes to terms with the fact that when people die or when he dies, it's not an end of this big drama, it's just death. And the world, the people around him will move on. It's not the end of anything. And so through this understanding of this insignificance of his death, of his actions, he learns to be able to connect with his team and to connect with, or to be able to adapt to this war, to fight using his emotions, because he understands that he's not this hero and he's not going to, if he dies, it's not this end of a big drama. And so the second Huskies is honest learners and leaders who manage their lives with integrity. I argue that he hasn't become an honest learner just yet. He's learning to become one. In the beginning, he wants this idealistic idea of honor, and through his actions towards the end, he learns he obtains that honor through his actions, but not through his own perceptions. And to do so, he had to look back on himself and had to reflect, which leads into my third husky. But he had to reflect on himself and learn how to grapple with his own life. But he's still learning because he still has this idealistic idea of honor. The third husky is solution creators who persevere and self-reflect. Throughout the whole book, he's looking back on himself. He has to come to terms with his guilt and shame when he flees the battle out of fear. And he tries to justify it, and he's trying to just understand why war is, what's happening to himself, what's happening to the people around him. And once he comes to terms with that, he's able to fight through the war using his rage, and is able to overcome the obstacles of a war. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next we have Haruki. Haruki, are you ready? Good call. You may begin.
My first virtue right away is number 3, honest learners and leaders who set high standards. Before meeting Juliet anonymously in the masquerade, Romeo had no focus in life and was sulking over a woman he can't get. However, after his ardent enamoration with Juliet, the focus of his life became getting together with her against all odds and his family's, especially Tybalt, the hot-blooded relative of Juliet's, to whom he loses Benvolio, his own relative. The next one is number 14, knowledgeable thinkers who are confident in exploring new experiences. Given the long history of hatred between the houses, it would have been a risk for Romeo, a Montague, to follow Benvolio and Mercutio to a feast at the Capulet's mansion. And that adventurousness gave Romeo a new purpose in life, a new chance to find what it is that he wants to be. And as for Juliet, here is where we bleed into the next virtue. Pun intended. Number 9, solution creators who persevere. Juliet already had an arranged engagement with Paris, who was just some noble. But the encounter that night made the two of them determined to find a way to get together. And as far as we can see, so did Friar Lawrence, who wedded the two secretly the following day. In addition, Juliet's nurse was asked to make a rope ladder for Romeo to climb the following night. After a conflict resulting in Juliet's kinsman Tybalt and Romeo's kinsman Mercutio dying, Romeo used it to climb up her balcony in order to get between the sheets, between Juliet's legs, between two acts of the play. However, one solution cautions you that fixating too much may drive you to your doom. Friar Lawrence gave Juliet a potion inducing a temporary but convincing death-like effect, and Romeo a messenger to inform him. The message doesn't arrive, and the story ends with a double suicide. Fixation is to be had in controlled doses, lest you perish.
Thank you. And last for round 2, we have Midori. Midori, are you ready? You may begin.
In the start, Scarlett didn't know who she was, but she was an honest learner and leader. She was very self-directed and self-motivated. Her sister's safety was her motivation, which is the pillar to this whole book. When the book started to form, she became a knowledgeable thinker and also a socially and personally responsible individual. As first of all, she's shown curiosity and interest in the world of Caravel. From beginning to end, Scarlett was mesmerized with what Caravel could do. Scarlett had also thought her whole life was being controlled by her father, that the only way to escape was to be with a count she had never met before, and had only been interacting through letters that were carefully monitored by her father. But after a lot of adventure and magic, she had finally learned to take ownership for her own identity and actions. Quote, "For years, her father tore her down. Over and over, she had let him. She'd allowed him to make her feel worthless and powerless, but she was neither of those things. Her new personality also doubles in strength when she actually meets the Count in Caravel. As it turns out that her mysterious savior Count she was so keen about was actually working with her father to bring her back to where she didn't want to be the most, her own home." Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Audience, let's give another round of applause for all 11 finalists. They've done a wonderful job so far. And thank you for being a wonderful audience. Continue that. It's 10:47. The judges have a very big challenge ahead of them. They need to actually eliminate 3 of these wonderful finalists. It's 10:48. So please. Okay. Blind. Okay. Okay. And welcome back to that small intermission. Let's give a hand once more for our 11 finalists. Okay, I have, we've scribed and we've judged, and the judges were speaking in a lot of detail about what you saw in these first rounds, and I think it was a difficult decision. And everybody here is worthy to be here. So as I announce the 3 people who are eliminated, let's give them a really warm round of applause, okay? Ms. Harmon is ready to award those who are eliminated. They'll be getting a certificate as a finalist and 1,000 yen Tosho card. Ooh. Okay. Could you give a really warm round of applause for our first eliminated finalist, Ryu Katayama. Let's give him a hand. And anything for a nice Instagram photo. Okay, let's give another warm round of applause for our second eliminated finalist, Rumi Inose. Smile for the camera. Okay, and one more. Don't cry. Please give a warm round of applause for Midori-han. She's way too excited. Get going on. Do I say that she's a good loser because she's happy? Give her a round of applause. Let's smile for the camera. Let's smile. Very good. Okay. And then there were 8. Okay. So we're going to be doing this third round, which is a 3-minute round first. Then we'll have a small preliminary judges meeting. And then we'll finish with the last round, which is a 1-minute round. And both rounds will be with all 8 finalists. Start with Haruki. And we'll be going all the way over to David. So the first round was introducing the value of reading, the value of your book. The second round was about the way that you grew as a person through the character growth. And this third round is where you move a little bit further out into the world, impacting society and the world. Reading something can change your perspective. It might challenge a stereotype you hold, and it might illuminate a world issue. This round is about that impact and about how reading this book might impact you as a reader to make some positive change in the world. We turn to our first finalist for this round, Haruki. Do you have the timer set to 3? Okay. Are you ready?
Okay.
I'm ready. You may begin.
I'd like to start with a quotation. In the very words of the bard, "My naked weapon is out." My naked weapon is out. Ponder on that for a moment there. First of all, Romeo and Juliet may be seen as a boring, outdated piece of stage play that has lost its relevance in this day and age. But the feud of the Capulets and the Montagues are reflective of current society in this very moment. Xenophobia results in unjustified hatred that takes countless lives, not only in war, but via simple governmental neglect. Borders are closed between unfriendly nations. Even within a nation, different factions are less than amicable, like between the Polish Americans and Puerto Rican Americans in West Side Story, or between African American communities and miscellaneous general American white communities, not segregated by mandate, but segregated by choice. Seeing how such a segregated premise leads to such a tragic, gory outcome, we are prompted to question our surroundings. Romeo and Juliet illuminates issues. Another way Romeo and Juliet punches society, that's my way of saying impact, by the way, by challenging the stereotype that Shakespeare's works are all lofty, pretentious, and no longer relevant or accessible. But the existence of annotated versions like the one I read, and even translations from early modern English to this thing that I'm speaking in right now, means that all the raunchy details and comic relief comes across nearly as vividly as its original form. In fact, Romeo and Juliet is full of double entendres and for the masses humor. Some snippets from the conversation of the two Capulets, Gregory and Samson, before they provoke the Montagues like this are, "I strike quickly, being moved," and "To move is to stir, and to be valiant is to stand." This exchange gets a really different connotation when you learn in early modern English that moved means aroused, and stand means exactly what you would expect stand to mean in this context. Finally, it's often observable that students consider reading classics to be boring. Some of you teachers can attest to that. Some secondary teachers, I read that twice. Reading is boring? Not quite so, especially with the existence of annotated versions and full translations, especially No Fear Shakespeare, available in full online. When you find Romeo and Juliet to be as proletarian as it was intended to be, It changes your perspective.
Thank you. Up next, you thought reading was boring, right? Up next, we have Kiara. Kiara, you have up to 3 minutes. Are you ready? You may begin.
So this text changes perspective in two ways. The first way, people forget what war is like today. There's this modern disconnect. Some people might think of it as a political move, or, we might say, yeah, it's a tragedy, it's cruel, but those are empty words. This book shows you how cruel it is. It gives you this vivid image of the cruelty of war, and it shows how much courage and how much luck is needed to actually face such a tragedy, such a frightening experience. And so when he flees and when he has to fight in the war, you actually sympathize with the character because you're just the same as him. Because in the beginning, he was a young man who had no experience with war, just like me. And the second way is that people might think you have to experience the war, you have to experience the certain event in order to actually understand what it feels like to go through that. But the author himself has never been in a war, and he's never experienced anything like that. And so it shows us that people can have a great power to sympathize with others, even if they themselves have never been through whatever experience it is. This book challenges stereotypes because the main character is not the typical hero. He's not a selfless man who would give his life for others. He's a man who has this idealistic idea of a hero who would rather you die than him die. He wants to run away. He's scared. He's not a courageous man until the end, and even then he's still scared and he's glad to be out of the war. So it shows us that he's a normal man, and that's the hero of the book, but he's not the typical hero. He's not like Superman, or he's not the typical hero. And this book illuminates issues because we have many refugees today, and so you start to think, by looking at them and looking at the book, you start to think, how are these people affected by war? Because you see the characters in this book affected by war in different ways. Some people change, some people don't change. And so you start to wonder, how do people who are not soldiers, how are they affected? How does war affect societies, countries, even the world? And so you see refugees, you see all these stories, all these reports about war, and you start to realize there is a modern disconnect, as I've mentioned before, but it's worth mentioning again, that there is a modern disconnect between many people because we've never experienced war. And sometimes you may have a slightly idealistic idea of war. So it eliminates the issues that people are still affected by war, and just because we haven't experienced it doesn't mean that it's not happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, can I please kindly ask the audience to refrain from talking during the finalists' rounds so that we can all hear and the judges can hear and make a correct decision so they can hear all the information. Thank you. We're moving to our next finalist, Pedro. Are you ready? You may begin.
People who are born after 1989 are considered to be millennials. Every student in this room right now is a millennial, and that is a fact. Another fact is that we millennials are viewed by society as lazy, party-loving, drug and alcohol-addicted people. And it is also true that we are provided with less opportunities than people who are not millennials. It is also true that we receive less respect from people. And that's all because of a very small stereotype that does not apply to every single person who is born past 1989. And in order to change a stereotype, it is essential that we all unite and that we all are able to collaborate with one another and share similar ideas in order to be able to overcome problems. And this book over here helps us because it points out the stereotype. And it talks about people who have tried to solve this problem and how they did it. And it gives us a bright and well-written idea on how we as a school can also show not only a community, but the world that we are all different and that we can change perspectives of people who are born past 1989. And changing a stereotype is like a mountain. You can't just go through it and change everybody's perspective at once. You need to slowly go up and convince a number of people, and then convince even more people. And in the downhill, that's when you can convince a large number of people almost instantaneously and change things for the better almost at once. I believe that this school has the potential, that we are all Huskies. And I believe that issues in society can be improved with the help of this book and these Huskies. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll have Chloe next. Are you ready, Chloe?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
You may begin.
A couple minutes ago, I asked you 2 questions. Do you feel attractive? And is it better to be ugly or beautiful? Open any magazine or turn on the TV and you'll see perfect beauty, perfect skin, models with perfect hair and perfect teeth. And this creates the illusion and hence the stereotype that is, being pretty is a good thing, something that we should all want and are all extremely attracted to. Well, Uglies challenges the notion that perfectly pretty is good and that we should want it for ourselves. In our society, people are often judged by how they look. We think that beauty equals happiness, which equals success. And we believe that unattractiveness equals lack of happiness, which equals lack of success. Well, Westerfeld shows that this kind of perfect pretty is not real, and that often behind the pretty facade, there's an ugly reality. Such as the government being willing to use blackmail on their citizens, the way they did for Tally. Or that the government also uses, as we learn later, the pretty surgery as a cover to make brain modification that will make people more susceptible to command and less independent. Now, I believe that this whole pretty surgery is an allusion to the things that people are willing to subject themselves to in real life in order to fit in and have the superficial beauty, like getting plastic surgery or flaunting about the last party you went to. People do this to demonstrate their happiness and their success. And when their pretty role models change their behavior, so does their behavior change. An example of this is staying on top of fashion trends. For example, have you ever heard, cigarette pants are so last year, or something like that? Pretty people can be shallow and lead boring lives as well. And often in someone who looks ugly, there is real beauty. For instance, in The Smoke, Tally becomes enamored by the ugly's adventurous side. She becomes attracted to their curious nature and their honest and open perspectives. Tally also learns that the ugly's individuality is what defines their beauty. And yes, I know it's trite, but beauty comes from within. Uglies challenges the beauty equals happy stereotype and brings to light the question of beauty and what it really is. Yes, it is easy to understand that being pretty has its advantages. But being pretty like the people in the magazines is not an honest depiction of life. Pretty in itself is not enough. Individuality and inner beauty is what defines us. Inner beauty is more important. And you cannot see that on TV or in those magazine pictures, nor can you in Westerfeld's Pretty People. So I'll ask you once more. Do you feel pretty?
Thank you. Up next, we have Ethan. Are you ready?
Yes.
You may begin.
My text, The Rest of Us Just Live Here, challenges stereotypes in many ways. Jared, the main character's best friend, is depicted as the tough guy, the one on the varsity football team, who is much more physically active than the other characters, even though he is gay, and sometimes gay people can be incorrectly stereotyped as unathletic. Mel is very down-to-earth and smart, challenging the stereotype that anorexic people are shallow or perhaps not very bright. My book also illuminates issues. One way my book illuminates issues is by having the main character's older sister, Mel, turn out to be a recovering anorexic, pointing out that she had actually died for a second in an ambulance after collapsing due to malnutrition. She was held back a year because she was in the hospital so long, and that afterwards she physically isn't the same. Her teeth had decayed from throwing up so much, and she is disturbingly thin. Throughout the book, there is a clear divide between the main characters and who they call the indie kids, or the ones who solve all the fantastical problems that happen in the background of this book. The divide is purely social, yet the characters and the indie kids don't always get along. However, towards the end, the main characters and a couple of the indie kids become closer after their school explodes and they have to team up. This shows that different social classes of people and those with seemingly nothing in common can join together peacefully. Yet another way my book illuminates issues is by showing that Mike needs medication for his OCD and depression. Even though he's not crazy or insane, he still needs medication, and a large part of the book is showing him come to terms with that fact and go to a psychiatrist. Another way my book illuminates issues is through Mike and Mel's family. Their dad is an alcoholic, and it tears their family apart. He is unresponsive and often not there for them. Similarly, the dad of one of my best friends who lives in America had an addiction that dramatically impacted their family. Reading this book and recalling the challenge of my friend's family showed me that even our closest friends can be dramatically impacted by other people's disorders. This book changes perspective by showing Mike's journey to better himself. The author does this in an amazing scene between Mike and his psychiatrist that helps illuminate what Mike goes through every day and how he can better himself in the future. Another way my book changes perspective is by having the main characters be regular people in a fantasy-type book. It helps you see what the characters with no speaking lines might think or feel when you read other books in the fantasy genre. This is interesting because you can tell that the main characters of most fantasy books and this one live vastly different lives. From this book, we can learn that everyone has problems and that it's possible to get along with everyone, even people very different from yourself.
Thank you. And up next, we have Kanade. Kanade, are you ready? You may begin.
So usually when girls are small, parents read story to us, like Snow White and Sleeping Beauty. While these stories give us dreams, it is also true that it shows gender stereotype, that manly prince comes rescue a weak princess in trouble. In our society, gender stereotype is a big issue. Forget Tomorrow challenges this stereotype by portraying Kelly as a stronger character and Logan, her boyfriend, as someone who follows Kelly. Although both of them support each other throughout the story, Kelly leads Logan to make moral choices, and she takes responsibility for her actions. Logan, meanwhile, was influenced by strength of Kelly and hopes to grow himself like her. This book tells us that girls can be strong, and that they can lead their way and become a hero. By challenging gender stereotype, this book teaches us that our actions and personalities don't have to be restricted by our gender. Forget Tomorrow provokes reader-changing perspectives about the power of fate. My book's catchphrase is, how do you change your future when it's already been determined? When Kelly first received her future vision, Logan told her that she has a chance to change the future if she is strong enough. But Kelly didn't believe it, and I think a lot of other people won't believe it too. We often think that fate is inevitable, that things are meant to be, but are they actually? Later on, Kelly discovers that although power of fate is huge, she has control over her actions. Quote, "It was always my decision. Nobody forced my hand, and fate never preempted my will." This book changes perspectives of people that fate doesn't necessarily control us. It might not be changeable, but it is definitely bendable. Nothing is absolute in our life, and our strong will can make a difference. This book also illuminates the world issue of technology overwhelming our life. In society where Kelly lives, food is processed by machines. Everything had to be perfect, and there was no need to cook, risking food getting burned. Everything was perfected, and people became afraid to make mistakes. Right now, technology has been advancing too quickly, and it's true that one day we're going to lose ourselves in them. My book raises awareness towards quick advancement in technology that is definitely one of the world issues. This book makes us think the role of them in our lives. Sure, think that it is useful, and we can't live without it now, but we have to distinguish lines. They are made to help us, not to control us. Forget Tomorrow challenges gender stereotype, provokes changing perspective towards fate, and illuminates an ongoing world issue, overwhelming technology, which can broaden our perspectives and can give us an overview of the world, which can influence both you and the world in a positive way.
Thank you. And overwhelming technology, those using your phone for non-academic purposes. Yeah, you know who you are. I won't do a hand check. Okay. And we're moving to Tanita. Tanita, are you ready?
Yes.
You may begin.
I quote, "We all stereotype, don't we? How many of you have been in an airport and saw someone who looked Middle Eastern and felt that this person might be a terrorist? Or walked down a block at night and saw a black man approaching? Or saw some guy come to school wearing a long black trench coat? Our judgment of people who have never committed a crime before comes from the characteristics of those who have. If those characteristics match, then that innocent person is a criminal. This book challenges these stereotypes, these preperceived judgment of people, when the murderer is revealed to be someone you would not expect. So the thing about humans is that we fulfill our desires based on a hierarchy of needs. It's like this pyramid-looking structure, and we can climb that pyramid to the next level only if we have fulfilled the previous one. All humans start on the bottom. The bottom of this pyramid are our basic needs, which include safety needs and physiological needs, such as food, water, warmth, and sleep. Then we have psychological needs, which are the self-esteem needs, such as the feelings of accomplishment, and love needs, such as intimate relationships and friends. At the top of the pyramid, we have the self-fulfillment need, which is when one is trying to achieve one's full potential. We are quite high on this pyramid. We are probably on the self-esteem level, in which our desires are to do things that make us feel happy and successful. However, about 800 million people in this world do not have their basic needs met. They are on the very bottom of this pyramid. They are starving, they are suffering, and they are dying. But how many of us really care? How many of us actually take action through volunteering, donating, or service? Not many, because what doesn't touch us doesn't hurt us, and what doesn't hurt us is not our problem. But that in itself is a problem, an issue of the world, and how this book illuminates that is by having people like us, privileged, high on the pyramid, be dragged down to where we start starving, suffering, and dying. The thought of everything being taken away from you at any moment is terrifying. It is scary. And after reading this book, although I didn't physically experience that situation, I did feel it. I would have difficulty swallowing. I would feel my mouth get drier the more I read. I could sense the horripilation on my skin. I was feeling what the characters in this book were feeling when they were taken away from their comfortable lives and stripped off from their dignity. It's almost impossible to imagine that something like this could happen to any of us because we live in Japan, and Japan is so safe, but Soundview, where these crimes took place, was also safe. So it really makes you question after reading this book, how safe are you really? This book shows us that the world problems are our problems too. You might not feel it now, but after reading this book, you will. It changed my perspective in the sense that I should always be appreciative of what I have, and so should you, because at any moment, it can just disappear. Thank you.
Thank you. And then our final finalist for the third round before we take a brief judging break is David. Are you ready, David? You may begin.
This book impacts society because of its overall meaning behind the story. Society being run by technology can lead to the destruction of social conversations and communications between the past and present in the form of books. This can be seen throughout the book as Monte makes his journey through his sanity and his now newly developed doubt against everything real in front of him. One stereotype this book challenges to me is the stereotype of how the amount of technology can define how successful or how happy one person or family is. In this book, it's exactly that. The amount of technology one family has become everything, a a trend which is expected by everyone. Furthermore, Bradbury takes it to another level as his main character, Monte, challenges these soulless creatures who have been swallowed whole by the deep void of the screen which inhabits the house of every person or persons in this book. Quote, Montag stood in the hall looking at her. It's sure fun, she said. What's the play about? I just told you. There are these people named Bob, Ruth, and Helen. Oh, it's really fun. It'll be more fun when we can afford to have the fourth wall installed. How long you figure before we can save up and get the fourth wall torn out and a fourth wall TV put in? It's only $2,000. This specific little chat tells us plenty of the life of Guy Montag, and it also illuminates a problem in the world we have now. Everything is so orderly, like it's being acted upon a great big script. Yeah. Everyone's response to whatever someone says, like it's programmed into our brain to react specifically at the specific things someone says. By a problem, I mean it's a global issue. Nowadays, I see kids as small as 5 with iPhones and iPads just sitting there playing with it. Now, what they do is none of my business. But I can't get the thought out of my head, just asking constantly, should a small kid like that be using an iPad all the time? Shouldn't they experience how to make friends, how to play with them outside? But that's the sad reality of the world we live in currently. With technology advancing every year, it's hard to not use technology available to us to keep a small kid from crying over every small tiny thing. But shouldn't we? In our world, technology is viewed as a sign of wealth. iPhones, laptops, fancy cars, etc. However, is this really thinking healthy? If we allow our future generations to be influenced by the multitude of businesses pushing new technology, where does that leave ourselves in the new generation? In a world where stories have helped shape human identity and also our society, what would happen if we were to replace books with technology? Who will we become? Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that you were impacted as much as I was in that last round. Let's give a really warm round of applause for our 8 remaining finalists. All right, so as we have people kind of filtering in, we're going to fill the seats for the very last round of the 3rd annual HIS Reads Finals. Let's give a hand for our remaining finalists. The judges have been in conversation, they've been going through, and they have the job of positioning and ordering our finalists. The winner today will get a copy of 15 Dogs. Yeah, they won't get 15 Dogs. We don't have space for that. But it's the name of a book that's won many different awards, including in a contest called Canada Reads, which is one of the foundations for HIS Reads. They'll get that in addition to some Tosho cards. Some of our winners will receive the pocket edition of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which you can use with your life. But without further ado, it's our last round. Let's give a hand for our contestants as we get rolling. In the 3rd round, our contestants did an amazing job showing you how reading can impact you in some way. It might make you laugh. It might provide you with a perspective from another time in history. It might challenge some of the values that we see in our modern day as values that we may not want to keep. But now as we move into the 4th round, we move to this idea of inspiration. Something where we read something that we love so much that we can't keep it to ourselves, that we want to share with somebody else and connect it to them. And we do connections like that through themes. So we'll be beginning with David. It's a 1-minute round, and this is their chance to inspire you and connect with you. David, are you ready? You may begin.
Fahrenheit 451 illuminates world issues and stereotypes which make us question our lives. Shows multiple Huskies and that we as students of EdJS need in order to grow ourselves, and most importantly, teaches us value of reading. Moving on technologically is perfectly fine. In fact, I believe it's the right thing to do. But as we progress in the ladder of human advancement, the need for book will eventually become less and less as everything becomes virtual. And like in the book, Fahrenheit 451, the books will sooner or later become digitalized, making it so that no one has to really read the books. Now the call to action would be, why get rid of paper books? Why can't we keep them a separate collection of a kind? After all, we've been cutting trees down for centuries, making paper out of it. Why stop now? That's what I want to just keep out there as we advance in technology. Thank you.
Up next, we have Tanita. Tanita, are you ready?
Yes.
You may begin.
Everyone, please grab hold of this. This is what makes us human. The fact that our frontal cortex is more developed is what makes us different from wild animals. This is the thing that gives us the ability to think, reflect, reason, desire, and make decisions. So if this is what's supposed to make us different from wild animals, even though we aren't living like them, why do we still act like them? Yes, we call ourselves humans, but are we really that humane? We have this wonderful ability to think about our desires and to make choices based on those desires, but in the process of developing this ability, where have we lost our ability to be human, to be kind to others, to understand others, to care about others? This might sound very cynical, but after reading a book in which you indirectly experience a situation in which you would wish you were dead, makes you start thinking differently. So I won't call you to act, but I will call you to think. Do you even care? And if you don't, why not? Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Kanade. Kanade, are you ready? You may begin.
So this year's theme fits perfectly to my book. Callie once gave up on future, but realized nothing will change. And after she realized she wanted to save Jessa, she strived for it, and she made change. To Callie, sitting in the corner of the jail doing nothing, was just an endless stream of days that awaited Callie to kill Jessa. My book fits the theme perfectly by teaching us goals keep moving forward, freeing us from fate, making our lives worth living. In my book, characters are trying to forget tomorrow, the future that is going to come true anyways. Knowing the future worried them so much that they decided to live in the moment. We, meanwhile, don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow is not guaranteed to us, so why waste today? We have to make the most out of every single moment that we're living in. Do what you want to do what you should do, because when tomorrow comes, regret won't do anything for you. So, forget tomorrow and seize today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ethan is up next. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You may begin.
My text connects to the theme of the importance of goals in many ways. Mike and his friends' primary goal is simply to graduate before their school explodes again. However, there are a lot of secondary goals that impact their day-to-day lives. Mike has a goal to ask Kenna out, something he has been avoiding for a long time. Jared has a goal to stay away from his grandmother's business, despite her continued persistence, and Mel, who struggled with anorexia, has a goal to stay healthy, even though it is difficult for her. These goals define many of their decisions throughout the day, and without these goals, the characters would be much less interesting. I think my book calls the audience to action by showing how we should not be so quick to judge others, because we might not know their whole story. This is a unique call to action, as instead of highlighting something we should do, it highlights something we should strive specifically to not do. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Chloe. Chloe, are you ready?
Yep.
You may begin.
Being a pretty is living a life without challenges, a life without dreams and without goals. Because the life of a pretty is one filled with parties and fun. No one has to worry about or work hard for anything. And the people are brainwashed to believe that this is ideal. And that with this unstructured and realistically uneventful lifestyle, pretties have all they want, all they need to not achieve anything and have little opportunity or incentive to do anything special at all. Ultimately, in this dystopian society, without the need for dreams and goals, life is an endless stream of days that have little connection or meaning. Tally and Shay challenge this throughout the story and set their own dreams and goals in order to alter this monotonous lifestyle. And this text induces thought about and helps people appreciate things that are more important than image in society.
Thank you. Up next, Pedro. Pedro, are you ready? You may begin.
We as teenagers all have goals, and we all have things we want to do in life, whether it being getting more sleep, joining your first choice university, or even getting a girlfriend or a boyfriend. But in order to achieve these things, we have to work hard. And sometimes we need that little push in order to work hard to be able to achieve things. Sometimes all we need is the smallest words from people or the slightest amount of courage to accomplish things. I'm not going to call anything big for you guys to do. I don't care if you guys go out there and start changing the world massively or even just the smallest bit. But what I want you guys to do is to pick this book up because, in quote, it's a true gift for the teenage soul. Thank you.
Up next, we have Kiara. Kiara, are you ready?
Yes.
You may begin.
So this text connects to the theme of goals because in the beginning, the protagonist wants to be the hero and he believes in this great drama. But through his experiences, he learns that to fight in the war, these ideas aren't so good. This goal wasn't so good. And so to us as readers, it teaches us that sometimes we make goals, but they're not always good. We can always change our goals. We don't have to follow through on them just because we made them. So I asked the audience to action with realizing and understanding how people are affected by war. There are many refugees, there are many people we label as terrorists, as bad people, as criminals, because of fear, because of all kinds of emotions, but we don't understand them. So I ask everyone to spread awareness and to understand them before judging them, before just saying, oh, they're bad. Thank you.
Thank you. And we've moved to our final finalists for the final round before the judges make their final decisions. Haruki, you have 1 minute. Are you ready?
Ready, steady, Freddy.
You may begin.
If it's about anything, Romeo and Juliet is about love between two persons, but it is also about hate between two households both alike in dignity. Love connects people, gives life a meaning, and creates humanity. But hate is a much stronger, more human emotion. In a way, this story is a caution, similar to that from the Black Eyed Peas. But if you only have love for your own race, then you only leave space to discriminate. And to discriminate only generates hate. And when you hate, then you're bound to get irate. Love is a beautiful thing, and letting it grow should be the first priority for all of us. Who are your Montagues? Who are your Capulets? What can you do to prevent star-crossed lovers from taking their life?
Thank you. All right, that was wonderful. Let's give another round of applause for the finalists, in the audience, for our judges, for you as an audience. Okay, 11:52. Let's do our best for 12:02 because the period ends at 12:10. Judges have a tough thing to do. All right, 12:02. Be back in your seats. Okay, I'd like to ask our 8 remaining finalists to all stand up, push in your chairs, and await the verdicts. Okay, let's give them a round of applause, our 8 remaining finalists. And while we prepare for Instagram photos, after this contest is done, we'll be good Huskies and clean up. Find Rishi to help with tables. Find Gideon to help with chairs. Find Leon and Maya to help with bleachers. Okay? But without further ado, we move to our 8th place finalist, winning a 1,000 yen Tosho card. Give it up for Kiara Johnson! Give her a hand. Thank you very much, Ken. And in 7th, with a 1,000 yen Tosho card and a pocket version of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Another version for Pedro Mori! All right, give it up for Pedro. And another 1,000 yen Tosho card and pocket version of 7 Habits. We have our 6th place finalist, Ethan Tull. Give it up for Ethan. And a 1,000 yen Tosho card plus another pocket version of 7 Habits. Our 5th place finalist, Haruki Wakamatsu! Give it up for Haruki! In 4th place, another 1,000 yen and 7 Habits pocket version. Our 4th place finalist, Chloe Hawkins! And another round of applause for Chloe! Okay. And now in 3rd place, winning 2,000 yen in Tosho cards and a copy of 15 Dogs. We hope you have enough space. Our 3rd place finalist, David Sugano! One more round of applause for David! We're all moved. Thank you. And now, we've come to our final 2, Tanita and Kanade, and I'm going to be announcing the winner, but let's give a round of applause for both of them. 2nd place will receive 3,000 yen and 15 Dogs. 1st place, 4,000 yen. Drum roll, stop! Give it up for Tanita! Chance free at Kanade, 2nd place. Kanade first next. And just hold your horses as you can come here with the pictures. Give it up for Tanita, our winner. Coming in 2nd. A nice smile. Give it up for Kanade. Hopefully back for more. Okay, thank you. And can I just ask real quickly, as the time is of the essence, can I have the finalists just line up in front of the stage here, if that's all right? We'll get one final picture, and then following that, we'll clean this place up and get to lunch.